answer all of my questions?
I'm ready. Interview with, I will represent America today.
I don't know how it's gonna work, but are you ready to answer all of my questions?
I'm ready. I will represent America today.
Okay. First of all, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Show the camera. So, I'm Casey Burkett. I'm from America.
You have a nice surname.
Thank you. My mom and I were talking last night about how it will die with me because me and my sister are both women who will probably change our maiden names and there's no other brothers or anything.
And you're from
Virginia?
and you live in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, right outside of Washington, D.C. So in Maryland technically, but 10 minutes from the line. But nobody really knows Maryland, so I usually say Washington, D.C. But then people are like, Washington? I'm like, sorry, I know the capital. It's like, oh, that's
Right.
yeah, the states and like cities that are popular here are really interesting because I'm like, people love Chicago. I'm like, I never have thought about Chicago, but here everyone's like, Chicago.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's cold there, so that's what
Yeah,
probably I never
yeah.
thought about that.
Mhm.
Your first time here
Mhm.
was a year ago.
My first time was 2 years ago. I was in Kiev
Right.
for 2 days. Yeah, but it was only 2 days, very quick impression, and then came back and lived in Odessa for 10 months.
Did you feel the difference between Kiev and Odessa?
Definitely. I think even just like, I'm a very aesthetics person, and so just like the architecture and the vibe of Odessa is a lot more like pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Kiev feels a lot more like
Work.
stark.
Right.
Yeah, very like the buildings are very
Mm-hmm.
it's like big and you're in taxis all the time and you're like
I've never been there, so that's why I'm asking.
Really?
Yeah, I need to ask you. Let's move to English, because
Okay.
that's another topic that we're interested in
Yes.
so much. Do you know grammar?
I do know grammar. Some grammar.
Okay, but that's only her. Right? Because most Americans don't know.
If you haven't tried to learn another language and you probably didn't pay that much, we have English class and they teach it, but by the time you're in your 20s, you've purged that information from your brain.
It's like as with Russian.
And like some of the things I know from English is just because I've tried to learn other languages, like the names of the cases. I would have no idea what that was if I hadn't tried to learn Greek first. And so like
Right. So
some
this
of the
experience
things
with other languages gives you...
totally.
And I also want to say that the way you speak is very... Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it actually, because you use a lot of weird words.
Many people tell me that actually, so it's not just that you, it's that everyone says that.
And I cannot actually understand if you're using like the slang
Uh-huh.
or you're just, I don't know, you read a lot of books and you use some words from there and phrases. That's probably both and it's mixed all together, right?
A little bit. And I think even for Americans, I'll do, like for example, even today, a lot of times I won't ask people like, how are you? I'll say like, how's your emotional landscape? Which is not a thing people say. Like it's not just, that's not an American thing, that's not an English thing. That's like, I don't know why, it just makes sense to me. No, it's not just good or bad. It's like, well, there's this wind passing through, there's this feature in the geography today. Like, you know, it's a very, so I think, yeah, part of it is my thinking is a little, for whatever reason, complicated and like weird. And then also, yeah, I think I do. Ina says that she thinks it's because I read a lot of books.
Mhm.
So, but it's not like smart people English either, so it's not like I can be like, oh, it's just like student English. It's like weird mixed with a lot of vocabulary for no reason.
Harder tenses,
Mhm.
present perfect, continuous. We're very interested in this. Why do you need them?
Tell us why. Okay, so I do think it's interesting why different languages create specificity for certain things. Like, to me, English gets the most specific with tenses. Like, we want to say that we were there, have, has been, like, could, like, all those, we create such specificity for our aspect in time. Whereas, like, again, with Russian, it's bizarre to me that you're so specific with verbs of motion. Like, why do I need to know if you went once, if it's a continuous thing, if you went by walking, if, like, it's bizarre to
Can you give me an example?
Like, if I schla somewhere versus pashla versus yechala versus payechala versus what are all the ones? In English, we don't create specificity with motion that
Yeah,
way.
you just-
Went, yeah, everything I went. I just
But
went.
wait, that's the same. Went. You have the same actually. Went. Were. Going. Right. It's also continuous. We're going. And when you say went, it's something completed. It's a completed action.
Yeah, perfective there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same.
But not as many. Like we have a little. It's not all exactly the same, but you could say went and be correct almost all the time.
Yeah.
True. Versus, I never know when I'm trying to say I went somewhere. I'm like, I have 20 words in my head. I can't think of
Poszła,
what.
uszła,
Yeah.
wyszła, wyszła,
Right.
doszła.
And I'm like, and if I went half by driving then walked some, do I say the jechat? Do I say the poszła? Or did I like?
The poszła. Why do you have so many decorations?
Like for holidays? Or just in general?
No, in general, everywhere. You have your flags everywhere hanging,
That's
right?
true.
And here you can see our flag only if it's like a holiday, big holiday.
Some special occasion.
Like in August we have one. I'm not very good at our holidays. We have one in August and something else. But you have it like whole year.
Yeah.
And actually, you like to decorate your houses,
I do.
your and everything.
Yeah.
Actually.
In my suitcase, I bring a box of decorations and I put them on my walls and I like.
And here we usually, like most families, I believe so, they don't decorate even for Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah. You know, my speculation, so I thought about this when I lived in Sri Lanka because it's similar, like nothing on the walls for a lot of the part, or just like, they'll decorate just like a calendar, that's it. And I'm like, it's so just a bad thing. Part of me wonders if it's like America is used to a certain level of wealth, that what's normal, like even just for houses, right, or like how many cars a family owns, like normal is skewed a lot. And then also like what type of stores, like the stores that I go to regularly, like Target, Walmart, like these are superstores where I'm going to pick up a thing of milk, but it's right next to the new decorative pillows and like the candles, and, you know. And so,
it was very specific place, you know.
Right, and I would just go there for fun sometimes. Like if you're like, oh, I'll stop by Target on the way home and like look at the candles or like the mugs on the mug, like
buy something.
Yeah, totally. Like, so I think you end up accumulating a lot of things from just the way the stores are set up, and then also,
so it's all marketing,
or like just availability. Like here, like if I wanted to buy a candle, I would have to decide to go to Cactus and like stop there and get the, like it wasn't like I'm just already somewhere and then I'm like, oh look at these cute candles.
We don't have these huge stores with, or we go to Epicenter. That's what you can see now. Everybody will go there and use Epicenter. Yeah, Cactus is very small one.
Yeah, but it feels like you have to be going there for something, and most of the time, like, it's that, and then the normal is like how do I describe? Like my room here was the smallest room I've ever lived in. So I'm not just like being like, oh, let me get a plant to put in the corner, because I'm kind of like, it's not that there's not that much space to do something with. Or in a store, like my Christmas decorations.
They're connected to where you live. Like you mostly leave houses. At least that's what we see in movies. And if you compare it to our apartments, that's pretty much we don't have space at all.
And storage, like the apartment I had here, I didn't have a closet in my room. 1, 2, I don't think there was.
Was it shocking for you?
Yes. I don't know. Well, I lived in one other place that didn't have a closet, but it was literally like 5 times the size of the apartment that I had here.
How did you feel?
Like, if I had all the stuff I normally have, it's a problem. If I come here with 2 suitcases.
No, I mean, but just, you know, emotionally and mentally that you're not able to spread your stuff all around.
I still did that. I kind of annoyed my roommates.
I remember your suitcases on the floor,
Like in America, again, I could like be driving around and people just put furniture they don't want on the street, and so like, or like I'll go to the thrift store and you can get a bedside table for $5. Like, so just the amount of stuff people have, I think creates so much of fluidity of like, oh, you want to have one, like, or like I got my dinner table for $20 at a yard sale, then I got this for free off Craigslist. Then
here it's not like that.
Right.
I cannot imagine somebody from our people just to put out some of their stuff and leave it on the road.
Yeah, I've never seen that here, yeah.
And
So.
that's not only because like they don't want to share. That's probably from USSR, because it was very expensive. Everything was very expensive. It was hard to get. You needed a lot of money and effort to get the table you want, or even like you might not want it, but you need a table. And just
totally, exactly, yeah. So in America, it's very much like my mom has an extra one, so I'll get that, and then if I don't want it again, I pass it on to someone else, and then you can get some cheap stuff from the thrift store. Walmart's cheap, you can find everything. So that creates a quantity of stuff, and then I'm not that attached to a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
And then
other people are very attached to stuff like that.
And then I would have Christmas decorations if I had somewhere to store them. But in America, I had 2 big Rubbermaid boxes of all my Christmas decorations. Oh yeah, my mom goes crazy. Yeah, she has a giant tree. There's lights everywhere. She decorates the whole front porch. It's a big affair.
Or having sleighs with deers and Santa on the roof,
And we'll go around, when I'm going home, my mom has already planned 2 neighborhoods where we're gonna drive around and just look at the lights. There are certain neighborhoods known for how great the lights and decorations are, and so your pastime is let's, as a family, go get some hot cocoa, drive around and be wow, look at that house, look at all the lights, look at the deer.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
And here you just see great houses and everything's dark, and that's very sad. Do you wear shoes at home?
Yeah. Why not?
Why do you?
Okay, so I also analyzed this last year because I would take one step in someone's house and would so
especially if you have carpet.
Yeah, and my mom's house, my mom's a germaphobe, bears in mind, and everything's carpeted, but it's no big deal for us to wear our shoes inside. And
but what if the weather is like that and it's raining?
I'll still wear it inside.
Say it again.
I'll still wear it inside, yeah.
Really? But you will leave marks on your carpet.
Here's what I think is the difference. So, and this totally, I'm sure, is different house to house,
Yeah, but mostly. That is what's happening. And that's what we can see in
I drive everywhere in America.
Right, you use cars.
Right, and so how much, I don't usually feel like my shoes get dirty. Maybe if I went hiking in the snow, when I come back inside, of course I'm gonna take my shoes off at the door. But I think in general, I'm just walking from my car to the front door.
Right.
Which doesn't create this sense of it's dirty. I'm mostly walking on leaves or the sidewalk, we have our own driveway.
Yeah, and then you go in the car and then you go out of the car and you go home the same.
Yeah, so sometimes when I lived with 5 people in a carpeted house where we walked more, we had our shoes by the door, but again, it was half the time we wouldn't always still take them off at the door, but we would try because there was just so much foot traffic. But at my house, when we're all driving, I live in a suburb, and I think it's just this sense of I'm barely walking, and when I'm walking, it's inside.
That makes sense. I didn't think about the cars.
One of our friends would always be you can't trust that guy because he puts his grocery bag on the floor and then puts it on the counter. But it's something that all the Americans were what? Of course. You come in, you throw your bag on the floor, and then so what have you done?
Dirty,
That's right. As we would walk around with no shoes on in the church office, and then people would be all the Ukrainians are and I would do yoga on the floor. The whole first 2 weeks I was doing yoga on the floor in the breaks, and everyone was and then I now I won't because I'm oh, it's dirty. I've adopted the oh, this floor is dirty mentality. But in America, I think most of the time we're the floors get cleaned, you barely even walk anyway, and even when you're walking, there's not a perception that those sidewalks are dirty unless you live in a city. And people don't spit on the floor. I think that's gross. Out on the street, people are spitting here.
Yeah.
That's more rare. It's considered very rude.
Also in America, people don't do that.
No. And you have to pick up after your dog. There's not as many dogs that are concentrated. So I just think my view of grass, dirt, road is
different.
Not that dirty. Yeah, it's it's as dirty as anything. As dirty as the table, as dirty as the whatever. So.
Interesting.